It's a pleasure to welcome you all back after a long pause. That break was a necessary time to recharge, reflect, and envision this year's course. I've thought deeply about what we could explore together, and I kept coming back to one idea, which is origins. Specifically, the origins as depicted in the first 11 chapters of the Hebrew Bible. Why begin there? I believe it's because when we observe the great civilizations where writing first emerged, whether in Mesopotamia, Egypt, or China, one remarkable similarity stands out. Among their earliest recorded texts, beyond the practical endeavors like mathematics, we find profound reflections on origins. The origins of the world, of humanity, of the gods, animals, of customs, even cities. These foundational questions captivated the minds of our earliest storytellers, and they continue to fascinate us even today. This universal yearning to understand where we come from remains just as compelling. Even in the modern era, some of the most popular courses at institutions like this one, Kingdom of Kings, revolve around the origins of the universe, the planets, or humanity. The subjects on the origins of man draw intense interest. Why? Because at its core, the question of origins isn't just about where things began, it's about understanding ourselves. To ask where the world, life, or civilizations originated is, on some level, to ask who we are and what we are part of. This introspective curiosity is also central to the biblical texts. The opening chapters of the Jewish Bible, which later became foundational to Christian Bibles as well, does not begin with a narrative focused narrowly on the people of Israel. Not at all. They don't start with Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. No. That comes later. Instead, these texts begin with grand universal themes. They reflect on concepts that transcend any single people or religion. They offer a vision that speaks to humanity as a whole. These chapters, likely familiar to many of you at the sound of my voice, if you've opened the Bible, you will know the opening verses, at least in part. You may find the first chapter compelling, Genesis 1, with its poetic rhythm of creation. You may find Genesis 12, where Abraham enters the story, engaging as well. But if you try to read through Leviticus, you might admit it's a little more challenging to get through. Yet, those initial chapters, those narratives about origins, are crucial. Why is that? Because they open with not one, but two accounts of creation, each with its own style and focus. Let me repeat that. Those initial chapters that we find in the Hebrew Bible, those narratives about origins, they are quite important. They open with not one, but two accounts of creation, each with its own style and focus. Together, they set the stage for the entire biblical narrative, framing its questions and concerns within the broader scope of all creation. That is what makes them so striking. They aren't exclusively Jewish or Hebrew stories in their essence. No. Instead, they reflect humanity's shared awe, curiosity, and need to understand beginnings. The early stories in Genesis has some of the most significant themes of human existence. Let's look at it in summary, and then we'll zone in. First, we begin with two creation narratives. The first tells of the creation of the universe and its inhabitants in an orderly, structured manner, each day unfolding a new act of creation. This sets up a harmonious and balanced world that we will discover further later on. Following this, there is a second creation account, and it is surprisingly different. Suddenly, the story rewinds and approaches creation with a more intimate perspective. You get to understand all of this as we delve in deeper. This second story of creation famously leads to the expulsion of the first human couple from paradise. However, we can frame this differently. This expulsion isn't merely punitive. It introduces a crucial theme: the separation of spaces. I repeat that because it's quite important and many people have not noticed this. This second story, which famously leads to the expulsion of the first human couple from paradise, can be framed differently. This expulsion, as I said earlier on, isn't merely punitive. It introduces a crucial theme, which is the separation of spaces. It prompts a fundamental question: can gods and humans share the same space? Can gods and humans share the same space? The story suggests that separating divine and human realms isn't just inevitable, it is necessary. Now, this theme of separation will appear repeatedly in other narratives as well, and I will point them out to you as we go on. So, that is the first two creation narratives at the beginning of the Hebrew text. Next, we come to the story of Cain and Abel, or Cain and Abel, as most people pronounce it, where we confront the origin of violence. Violence is a central issue in understanding humanity's condition. Those who have taken my course on the human condition, you will understand this. Violence, repeating myself, is a central issue in understanding humanity's conditions. And it spread over the earth because one of the reasons for the flood later on is because of violence. Let me take it again. After the two creation narratives, we come to the story of Cain and Abel, where we confront the origin of violence. Now, this thing called violence, this force, this entity called violence, is a central issue in understanding humanity's condition, and its spread over the earth becomes one of the reasons for the flood later on in the narrative. The story of Cain and Abel tackles why violence exists. Additionally, Cain, despite his violent act, becomes the founder of cities and the symbol of the beginning of civilization. His descendants, we are told, innovate and create, marking him as an inventor of human progress, even amidst tragedy. We will explore this in greater detail as we go on. The texts after Cain and Abel shifts to genealogy. This is Rabbi Akwetey, and I'm so sorry for the interruption, but we couldn't wait to share this with you. If you enjoyed this teaser, there's so much more to discover. The story of origins dives deep into the first 11 chapters of the Bible, unraveling universal themes of creation, humanity, and our shared beginnings. This course is designed to engage your mind and expand your perspective in unique and meaningful ways. So, don't miss out. Enroll now and use this code, Origins20, to get 20% off. Click the link in the description box to join us and start your deeper exploration today.